Hey everyone, this is Walter, and we're back here once again with Russell Greer, a man who's mostly known for suing celebrities. He even calls himself a celebrity litigator. This is a book that he wrote about the time he sued Taylor Swift, and it's supposed to be non-fiction, but I guess all sorts of crazy shit's gonna happen eventually. So let's just get started with Russell Greer's book, Why I Sued Taylor Swift. Last time, Russell emailed Taylor Swift's agents, and he didn't get the answer he was looking for. He's trying to avoid looking like a stalker at this point. Early September of 2016 came, and I mustered up the courage to email Jay once more. I didn't want Jay to think I was a harasser if I kept emailing him, so I spent several days drafting the perfect email to send to him as a last hurrah sort of thing. This was my last chance to attempt to convey what I was trying to send to Jay to pass on to Taylor. After several days of brainstorming, my draft was complete and the email was sent. The message I had sent clearly described what I was trying to send him to pass on to Taylor. I explained how the dream was to write music for her, but if that couldn't work out, I at least wanted her to have my story, and the gift, and to leave it in her ball court for her with the hopes that maybe she would like to meet up. A bit bashful, I didn't want to sound like a stalker or crazy fan, so I implied that I would be open to meeting her. I sure hoped that she was good at picking up hints. At the very least, I wanted Taylor to know that I get you. You can probably already tell the chances that Taylor Swift pays attention to Russell at any point in this story. But he's still going to manage to sue, of course. To my surprise, a number in Nashville, Tennessee called me on the morning of September 13th, 2016. It was rare for anyone to call me, except for the occasional telemarketer. The phone buzzed and rattled on my desk at work as I studied the unfamiliar number that was calling me. I figured it was another solicitor. Unbeknownst to me, though, it was Jay. Since I was at work, I couldn't answer the phone, so I allowed the phone to ring and go to voicemail. About 2 minutes later, a notification popped up on my phone that I had received a new voice message. The realization finally struck me that maybe it was somebody connected to Taylor Swift who was trying to reach me. Like a bat out of hell, I ran through the maze of cubicles in my work office and quickly dived into a private room where I could listen to the message in private. Crouched down in a corner with the phone pressed against my ear, sweat fell from my brow as I prepared to listen to the voice message. The voice message began with an older southern gentleman clearing his throat before he began speaking. "Good morning, Mr. Greer." The voice message began playing Jay's recorded message. For the next minute, Jay explained how he had received my previous messages, and apparently he was still under the impression that I was trying to give Taylor a song to do. I couldn't believe it. I do like how Russell keeps saying that Taylor could refuse to do the song if she wants, but that was obviously a lie because he spent the entire first chapter of this book trying to convince us that she shouldn't be able to refuse. To be fair, I did mention how I would like to write music for Taylor, as a sort of side talking point, but I clearly said that the main purpose for the email was for Taylor to receive a gift, which was a fan-made song meant to make her smile, and that the gift demonstrated my music skills. It wasn't that hard to comprehend. Since Jay took the time to call me, I didn't understand why he couldn't just tell Taylor about my efforts at the very least. It didn't make any sense. My heart was crushed even more than it had previously been as I listened to the remainder of the message. His voice was polite, but it had a strain of meanness. Jay then told me that he didn't care about my disability or my story of me trying to rise above it with the help of a celebrity I admired. My blood boiled. The record company absolutely forbids Taylor from receiving unsolicited materials, regardless of who you are or what your cause is, Jay quipped. I felt dehumanized. I felt like Jay took a wet glove and was slapping me around to humiliate me. It was insulting because he wasn't trying to understand. Again, that unsolicited song submission policy wasn't the problem. If I couldn't be a songwriter for Taylor, then so be it, but there were two unresolved problems that Jay was not addressing, whether he was purposely sidestepping the problems or if he just did not understand what I was saying to him for some odd reason. Those unanswered questions were: 1. Did Jay know about the gift song? He made no mention of the gift song, I Get You, Taylor Swift. 2. If Taylor is supposed to abide by contracts that forbid her from not accepting unsolicited things, per her record label, why does she accept and flaunt them on Twitter? My head began to ache, hurting from the craziness that this was developing into. This situation was becoming more difficult than it needed to be. Jay's message concluded with him wishing me well. Eerie silence set in as the truth finally hit me. I had been stonewalled. Russell, if it's a gift, it's not supposed to go through her agents. You're actually failing because you're trying to skip to the front of the line as usual. There are no adequate words I can write here to describe how I was feeling in that moment, but I'll do my best. I felt robbed. I felt wronged. I felt spat upon. I felt ignored. I felt shafted. I felt belittled. I felt like a beggar who had embarked on a long, hard journey, gift and story in hand, to flatter the queen of a faraway kingdom, because said beggar saw others give simple gifts to this queen, only to be denied entrance by unsympathetic and negligent gatekeepers. All of my begging and pleading and deal-making was all for naught. Like a statue, I remained in my crouching position, trying to let everything soak in. I didn't know what course of action I should take in regards to trying to get Taylor to see my efforts, but I knew that I did need to go back to my desk to work, as I had been crouching for more than a 10-minute break allowed. Staggering past the cubicles in my office, I slowly made my way back to my desk. Rebecca, a red-haired female coworker, heard my loud, shuffled, awkward footsteps and stood up in the cubicle next to mine and gasped upon seeing me. "Oh my goodness," Rebecca exclaimed. "It looks like you've seen a ghost." It must be wild to work with Russell, huh? He's always about to start singing about Taylor Swift or running through cubicles and diving into an empty room to take a call. So dramatic. Though maybe that's just for the book. Kind of, I struggled to speak. Taylor Swift's agent just called me. I sadly explained the entire situation to Rebecca, and she agreed that it was unfair what Taylor Swift's agents had done to me. Later on that day, Jay emailed me, reiterating his phone call. He had CC'd Taylor's other agent, Robert, who I had honestly never even talked to before. Robert was like the Emperor on Star Wars. He was the hidden head honcho who let his partner do all the dirty work, yet he was aware of everything. For all I knew, these two gentlemen could have been great guys, but their mishandling of the gift I had sent them, and their failure to address arbitrariness with acceptance of other unsolicited stuff Taylor had received, and their refusal to pass along my story at the very least, made me not look upon them in the best light. Essentially, they disguised bigotry, which by definition is being intolerant of others' ideas and struggles, as was shown by Jay, and disregard for my disability and struggles with their feigned politeness. I'm sure the agents probably didn't have the best view of me either, as my persistence may have rubbed them wrong. Well, here we go, into one of Russell's infamous dream scenes. He needs to convince himself to keep going with this. When I got home from work that evening, I plopped down on my bed, and I fell into a deep sleep, exhausted from how difficult this entire situation had become. My eyes began to flutter, and then they closed. Before I knew it, I began snoring like a bear and started dreaming. Magically, my dreams transported me to a cold, barren wasteland with towering, jagged mountains. Thunder crackled and crashed behind the mountains. As dark and desolate as the wasteland was, I wasn't frightened. I looked around me in awe and saw in the opposite distance of the mountains a beautiful kingdom that had colorful gardens. Majestic trees that held addictive fruits and flowers of many colors decoratively populated the gardens, as a calm river of pink lemonade ran through the gardens. A gigantic redstone castle, built to resemble the Hohenzollern Castle in Germany, was located towards the front of the gardens. Sitting by the window, in the largest tower of the castle, was the Queen, Taylor Swift, who looked so beautiful in the purple dress that adorned her. She played an acoustic guitar as she cried. Though I stood miles away from her, I could see her teardrops fall in slow motion as they splashed upon hitting the floor, creating giant waves. At the bottom of the tower was a long line of male celebrities and admirers who had failed to make it work with Taylor. Some of the men, like Calvin Harris, appeared to be distraught, as Calvin was humorously throwing a temper tantrum. "Yeah, take that, Calvin Harris. Russell's going to make you look like a baby in his own fantasy and then write about it in his book later." Suddenly, out of nowhere, a black owl swooped down and landed on my shoulder. "She's waiting for you, Russell," the owl said in the voice of Morgan Freeman. I was shocked as I had never heard an owl speak before. "But she's out of my league," I tried explaining to the owl. "Taylor doesn't care about leagues or classes. She cares about effort," the Morgan Freeman owl lectured. Through either magic or a transportation device, my sheet music, a CD copy of my song, and a bouquet of flowers appeared in my hands. I looked down at the items that I held. "You have what Taylor Swift is looking for. Don't give up," the owl said, nodding his head, wishing me luck. "Wait," I said to the owl, "before you go, aren't you going to say who?" I looked at him in a teasing way. "That is a stereotype that I find very offensive," the owl told me in a straightforward manner before flying off. Before I could say or do anything else, a time warp quickly evaporated and consumed everything around me. In an instant, the same time warp consumed me, and then a few seconds later, the warp spit me out. I staggered, regaining my balance and footing. Straight in front of me was the large gate to the castle. Two cloaked, hooded, mysterious figures stood by the gate. Tiredly, I approached the cloaked figures. "Excuse me," I called out. "I am here to give these gifts to the queen." The two figures looked at each other, and then the figure who stood on the left side of the other stepped forward and walked towards me. I swallowed nervously. When the cloaked figure got 5 feet away from me, the figure stopped and removed its hood, revealing the face of a 50-year-old man who had gray-combed hair and a trimmed gray mustache. It was Taylor's agent, Jay. "Mr. Greer," Jay said in a very slow manner, "we have been over this before. You may not give your musical works to Ms. Swift." Wow, this is weird. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to see what happens next. A fight scene, apparently. "Sir, please listen," I begged. "This isn't a song for her to do. It's a gift of appreciation. What better gift to give a musician than a song? It's not the best song ever, because the people I hired to produce it totally screwed it up, but it was a simple song to show appreciation." I lifted my crumpled music sheet to show him. "See," I said, "I worked hard on this." As I tried to continue to speak, Jay's fist smashed into my jaw. I fell backwards into the mud as my mouth bled. I struggled to stand up. "Jay, I don't want to fight you," I said weakly. "Mr. Greer, you are becoming a nuisance," Jay screamed at me. Seeing that Jay wasn't going to listen, I defended myself. The two of us engaged in mortal combat. I blocked each blow he threw at me, but he had the upper hand with his experience and skill. Over by the gate, the other cloaked figure, presumed to be Robert, silently watched. While Jay was busy giving me the beating of my life, Taylor sat in her tower, seemingly oblivious to the fight that unfolded below. Taylor had a look of desperation and loneliness in her eyes. She longed to have something last, but every guy who had been with her was pretentious. Their motives were not genuine. My efforts displayed sincerity. Even though I was not religious anymore, I still believed in the biblical verse, "By their fruits ye shall know them." If Taylor saw my fruits, then she would possibly help me. While it wasn't a guaranteed success, I still had to try or I would never know. There was not a doubt in my mind, given her past representations. Covered in mud, I lied on the ground as Jay kicked me repeatedly. It was there in the mud that the inspiration hit me. I had to climb over the walls, past the guards, and reach out to somebody within Taylor's kingdom. With a loud gasp, I awoke from my dream, drenched in sweat. Wow, that was one trippy dream, I said to myself as I checked my phone and saw that it was only 10 p.m. With my head rested against my pillow, I reflected on the dream that I had just had. The dream, regardless of how bizarre it was, spoke truth through an allegory. I do agree that Russell should stop trying to contact her again through her agents, but I doubt he's about to come up with a better solution to it. I had to go around Taylor Swift's agents, her gatekeepers, if she were to ever see this. 2 words spun around in my head: who and how. The 2 words formed complex questions in my mind. Who would I give my gift to give to Taylor, and how would I give it to them? Being the paralegal graduate sleuth that I was, finding the appropriate people was a no-brainer. Convincing them, on the other hand, to pass it on to Taylor was the tricky part. I wanted to avoid contacting Taylor directly, so sending it to her was out of the question. I know he's right about the fact that she'd probably never see any gift he sent specifically, but at the same time it's funny how he thinks that the correct channel is completely out of the question and he'd rather do some stupid shit like harass her family. I actually read a lot of his Change.org petition to Scott Bruchetta in one of these videos. He basically wanted to force Taylor Swift to sing his song for him because he's disabled. You know, same shit, different day with Russell. But anyway, I think that's about all the time I have for you today. If you liked the video, please give it a like. If you have something to say, make sure you let me hear it in the comments. Russell is fun to talk about, and I might be using comments in future videos, now that I'm out of book reviews. If you're new here, consider subscribing for more of the same. I'll be covering this book more often, hopefully, since the action's picking up. Big thanks also to my amazing patrons. I'll be shouting them out very soon here, but they help support me over on Patreon. I'll be back soon with more Reddit content as well. Have a great day, everyone, and make sure you don't contact Taylor Swift directly.